one, and I mean no one, is talking about this one aspect of insulin resistance and our health, your health, all of our health. And the thing that keeps getting lost in this whole conversation is fat storage and fat burning. Now, I know for most of us, that's a huge part of our overall health. That's what we've been pressured on most of our lives, right? To make sure that, oh, you got to make sure that your weight is right, that you look like everybody else. You got to make sure that we don't want to shame anybody, of course, on this, but we want to accept everybody. But the reality of that is we know that one of the signs of metabolic syndrome is waist circumference. That's greater than 40 in men and greater than 35 in women. So that is huge. That is a part of our metabolic health. Guys, I'm Coach Ken. I am the nutrition coach that helps people to reverse insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And if you're coming in here, I'm somebody that walked that path. So you're not talking to somebody here, and we're going to have a conversation that's really about real life, not about making things up. And hearing from somebody that hasn't walked this journey. I've been to the doctor's office. I've had the medical issues, and I've been able to reverse my insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, my heart disease, lowering my triglycerides and LDL, increasing my HDL, reversing metabolic syndrome, all by doing natural habits, lifestyles, and tools, two in particular, that changed everything about my life. It's a road you don't have to be on. So as we come in today, we're going to hear this morning from Lindsay Venn. All right. Lindsay Venn is a physician's assistant and a registered dietitian. It's somebody that knows about insulin resistance and fat storage versus fat burning probably better than anybody in the world. So we're going to jump right into hearing from her this morning. And as we come in and maybe you have questions or thoughts, we're going to listen to her, and then we're going to just open it up to conversation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about other things that we can do along the way. All right, let's hear from Lindsay.
Just like Lisa had said, we don't necessarily want to just lose weight. We want to lose topic that I really want to highlight today. And like I said, weight seems to be the focus, but we really want to talk about fat distributed on people and how insulin and insulin resistance play a major role in this. These two gentlemen are probably about the same weight, but they have very different body types and different lean body mass composition. And that is the focus of how do we improve this over time with our diet, with different protocols like the Feel Great system, and improving insulin resistance, which we know is a major contributor to all chronic disease. Thank you, Lisa, for pointing it out. Prediabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, you name it, they all come from the same root cause, which is insulin resistance. So first, you guys know me, I like to educate on a lot of different things. First of all, let's talk about fat. There's lots of different kinds of fat and how it is distributed on the body. And I want to get into a little bit of this. I'm not going to get too sciencey on you, but it is an important topic. There's different kinds of fat because there are different kinds of health risks associated with the different kinds of fat. So gynoid fat storage, I have here at the top, that's this one. That is, and I guess I can use my marker, huh? That is this poor lady up here who tends to store all of her fat in her butt and her hips. That's gynoid fat storage. So lower body, pear shape is what we've always described it as, is one kind of fat storage. Subcutaneous fat storage is here. This is the stuff that you can grab, pinch, jiggle, all of those things. It's a different kind of fat storage, and honestly, a healthier kind of fat storage than the last one, which is our visceral fat storage. Right. Visceral fat storage is this issue that insulin resistance plays the major role in, where we store fat inside of our viscera. Viscera is the inner lining of our abdominal cavity. And if we were to look at it from an imaging standpoint, I love this image for this. These two, I assume they're gentlemen, body types look very, very similar from the outside, but from the inside, they're extremely different. If you look at this picture right here, there is a ton of fat inside of the abdominal cavity or the viscera, like I had mentioned. This is the stuff that is going to kill you. This is the stuff that creates all of the chronic disease that we worry about: diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, fatty liver, PCOS, you name it. They all come from visceral fat storage. This person over here has subcutaneous fat storage. It's all on the outside of that abdominal cavity. Certainly not pretty. We don't like that from the pretty aspect, but we do like it from a health aspect. If you're going to store fat, we want to do it that way. But how do you know? How do you determine how your body stores fat and how do you fix it so you can lose it, number one, but two, make sure that it's not going into this visceral cavity,
Right.
which is so detrimental to our health. So first, there's two kinds of ways to grow fat. And a lot of people
This
don't
is
know
good
this, but
stuff right here.
hyperplasia, and which is this one here, and hypertrophy are the two primary ways of storing fat. Hyperplasia means making more fat cells. So instead of growing bigger fat cells, which is hypertrophy, we're growing lots and lots and lots of tiny little fat cells. Hyperplasia is about 5% of the population. It's not a very big portion of us. This is the people who are this 600-pound life kind of can grow lots and lots and lots of healthy little fat cells and get severely morbidly obese, but not experience chronic hypertrophy, which is the 95% of the rest of us, is the kind where we actually just have a limited amount of fat cells and these just grow and grow. But this hypertrophy or hypertrophy of fat cells is that these guys are very, very inflammatory and very detrimental to our health. And so because this is the majority of the population, this is the group that we focus on. How do you fix this? How do you prevent this? And how do you reverse this and the strategies associated with it? The other piece of this is, well, what kind of fat do we have? There's a couple of different kinds of fat. So white fat is primary fat that we have for fat storage. This is just energy for later use, which our body was designed to do. We also have this lovely thing called brown fat, is something that is inversely or oppositely related. The more insulin resistance you have, the less brown fat you will have. Well, brown fat is really good for burning energy. As you can see, it's an energy burning kind of fat. And we want to be able to optimize our brown fat while limiting the amount of white fat that we have in the body. And that's part of the topic of conversation today. It talks about there's an intermediary form of fat that's in there. So what are we looking at? We're looking at storing. We want to be brown fat associated. We want to be burning versus storing. We want to, which is actually just creating excess calories that we're burning for no good reason. We want to be able to improve our mitochondria, which brown fat does. And how do you fix this? Do this with your diet. You can do it with things like cold exposure or hermetic stress, and you can do it with exercise. All of these so what to do with our fat. So for those of you who have not talked about insulin and what does insulin do and why is it important, and so I come and meet with people here on this topic. Insulin is the hormone that is excreted when we eat. Every time we eat, we're going to have more insulin. Insulin here will enter into this receptor that allows glucose into the cell. Well, this is for someone who is insulin sensitive. Their cells are sensitive to the effect and it functions the way it's supposed to. People who are at work, this cell, this receptor is resistant to of insulin, and therefore this cascading effect of getting glucose in doesn't work. Why is that a problem? Insulin, and I pointed out here, is just like a key in a lock. In order to get glucose, our main fuel source, into the cell, we have to have a key that gets into the lock, unlocks this, and lets glucose in. Well, with insulin resistance, this key and this lock no longer work, and we can't function the way that we're supposed to. So what happens? When we've been fed, so anytime when you've eaten something, we do a few things with that energy. First of all, we are going to, in our liver, we're going to process this glycogenolysis, which is a production of glycogen. Glycogen is our short-term storage form of energy, and I'm going to make this a lot simpler here in a second. We also have our muscle cells that have glycogen. This is our fight or flight response. If we were to be chased by a bear, Our muscle glycogen is going to excrete all of this glucose, and we're going to have all this energy to run from the bear.
We have a few bears in
and
Alaska.
then lastly,
so
we have these adipose cells.
love the analogy.
If we have our glycogen are full and our muscle cells are full, all of this excess energy is going to go into fat storage, which those of us, like Lisa had mentioned, really don't want to do. We want to burn fat. We don't want fat. Insulin is the massive culprit here. When we have high levels of insulin, which occurs in insulin resistance, we are going to take that glucose and we are going to store it. We're not only going to store it in our fat, we're also going to start storing fat in our liver and our muscle, which leads to fatty liver and sarcopenia and other kinds of things. Also hypertriglyceridemia or levels of triglyceride, because we have a level that we have, well, this all, which we do not want to do. Of this, we have two fuel sources, and Jason Fung, if you all haven't heard of him, he's amazing, and I absolutely love him when it comes to intermittent fasting. We have two fuel sources, just like we do in our kitchen. We can get food or our energy from our refrigerator, get our energy from our freezer.
Now, just real quick, so when she talked about hermetic stress, this is part of what intermittent fasting does. And so just to kind of keep in mind, kind of putting those two and two together.
We all know how easier it is to cook something. And so we want to make sure that we're figuring out how do we utilize the freezer in a much easier way, because this is also AKA our fat. Insulin is the thing that does this. So if we have high levels of insulin, so I'm going to use this little analogy. So we're going to eat some carbohydrates. Our insulin is going to spike, and we're going to fill up that refrigerator can. Well, just like the refrigerator, there's only so much room. After that refrigerator is full, you have to put the rest of your food somewhere else. And so we stick it in the freezer. In the freezer, it just gets stored as fat. A little bit more difficulty in this GLUT4 mechanism, which I won't go into detail on, by using exercise. But using exercise,
talk about that.
Eating or exercising after we eat can help you utilize that, so we're not actually storing our glucose as fat in the long run. So I pulled this today. I just thought, I'm going to make this a little bit more simple. So if you were to go say, okay, I want some energy, what am I going to go pull out this frozen turkey from my freezer, or am I going to go get the thing that's in the fridge that I've already cooked? This one's the easy guy. And that's the one, if you continually feed yourself and continually have high levels of insulin, you're never going to tap into this freezer, because why would you do that? We want to get insulin levels down. So cooking from our freezer and utilizing the fuel source that's available in our freezer is easier to do. And I created this slide so many years ago, but I still love it, so I keep using it. What is the cause of all of this? We've all been our current thought, become obese. This is, but what if we had it all wrong? What if this insulin model of obesity is actually the correct way? And we know at Insulin IQ and Dr. Ben Bickman teaches it all the time, that high levels of infrequent feeding and high carbohydrate diets and lack of things like intermittent fasting, this high level of insulin will lead to an increased intake. It leads to increased food cravings, increased hunger, to store fat, and therefore will cause you to eat more, which will then lead to obesity. So we want to completely kibosh this idea where it's like, okay, it's not calories in versus calories out. And those of us who are eating less and moving more, we're just failing because of her. So this slide just really says it. If you have high levels of insulin, you are going to store your excess calories as fat. You're going to crave more food. You're going to be hungrier all the time, and you're really going to have cravings for things like sugar and carbohydrates. If you're low, you're actually going to use freezer or your fat storage source. That's what it's designed for. Ancestrally, we have fat stores simply so we can use it in times of famine. So you burn your own body fat for fuel and you won't crave these things, the carbohydrates and the sugar. Ways is how do we utilize that freezer versus that refrigerator? As Brittany and Lisa both, most of us have this problem. Only 7% of our population right now is considered metabolically healthy, which AKA is normal or low levels of insulin. 93% of us struggle with this, and that's why this protocol is so important, because we can hit such a huge portion of the population and help them get better. So how do you do this? Well, we want to lower your insulin naturally, and we have several ways to do this, and a really great way to do this is the Feel Great system. The system, which Brittany's going to talk about in a lot more detail than I am, really incorporates a way to, one, lower glucose absorption with the fiber in the balance, and two, boost things like GLP-1 production and improve insulin.
So I'm going to take off Lindsay. So, and we got a great information there that definitely that Lindsay's called insulin resistance, and it is making so many issues for our health. And so those of y'all coming in, welcome in. I saw we got some great comments today. Let my screen kind of adjust things a little bit. I don't know, so Kat and Dora, if you guys are still here, so welcome in. So as we've been talking about this, we're dealing with insulin resistance. So type in the comments where you guys are coming in from. I'm Coach Ken. I'm up here in Anchorage, Alaska on this Saturday. I hope you're having an awesome one as you're joining in. This is definitely a great day. I've been enjoying the weather. I'm not sure even it's still dark outside right now. We are just now, normally at like 4 o'clock, we were able to be out to like 5:30 last night. We still had light, which was kind of cool because we had not had that in a while. So totally cool. So where are you guys coming in from? If y'all would just write down in the chat. I love hearing where people are coming in from. We've had people in from pretty much all over the world when it comes to this. So we are talking today about a problem called insulin resistance. And back in 2023, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And when I was diagnosed with it, the doctor really didn't explain what was going on. And it is one of the most difficult things, the biggest health problem that we have in the United States. There's nothing that really compares to it because it is the root cause of so much of what we're dealing with. So much health issues. Mine, in 2023, I went to the doctor not thinking anything. I kind of figured they were going to tell me, hey, you're overweight. But that's not what they just told me at all. They told me, hey, you're diabetic. And that was really a punch in the gut for me. That was a huge punch in the gut for me. And I didn't realize what that meant. Well, I'll take that back. I did realize what that meant. And what that meant was potentially it could end my life. And this isn't the first time I've done it. I'm a cancer survivor. So that was a huge kind of blow. And because I'm married to a doctor and we're both widows, it was kind of intimidating, to say the least, that, hey, you've got a problem here that could become a big issue. And I was like, well, yeah, because I've sat with people in the hospital that were going through getting ready to have their legs amputated. And that's a hard thing when you know the people, when you know the family. You're sitting there as a pastor with teenagers, right? Because that's what I was, that's who was getting ready to become the caregiver for their parent because their diabetes is out of control. And so for me, and I don't know about you, I had no idea that insulin resistance was affected. I got diagnosed with sounds like you got a problem. And you know what? I appreciate the humor. But you know what? We're not going to be having that on my channel. There are there are folks, there are teenagers that come on here that I have a little bit more respect for people, and so please refrain from that, or I'll have to remove you completely. I'm just going to remove that comment. Um, the truth of this is insulin resistance is the biggest issue that we face in our day. And we've just heard Lindsay Venn go through the whole issues that are happening with our health overall, and what's happening to us. So this was me back in 2023. And you can see there that I was 200 pounds. The doctor came in and said, you can see the inflammation over here in this picture versus the picture right next to it. You can see the difference. But what you can't see is the blood work, right? That's the biggest part of this. It's easy to sit there and go, oh, look, you lost weight. You're on a weight loss program. You ate less and you move more. But insulin resistance is far more than that. All those conditions that are right here, from the blood pressure, the anxiety, the acid reflux, the migraines, insulin resistance, the high cholesterol, that's all related to insulin resistance. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. So, and our doctors aren't talking about, we're not talking even about the skin tags. How many of you have had skin tags? Maybe you've been dealt with skin tags. I'm going to give you a little bit of list. And if this relates to you, let me go another slide. So this is the root of is insulin resistance. This is a huge issue. And we're here talking about it because we're not getting the information that we need. It's one of the reasons that I became a nutrition coach and delved into this and learned what I need to learn so I could help on this way. And it's something that I had to deal with as well. I'm a husband and I'm a father. And while my kids are grown, I know they still need me. I know that my wife needs me. All right. My wife needs me to be the best that I can be. And if I'm sick and I'm looking at this list and I need to address it, right? So if you're recognizing anything's on here, just some of them, we're talking about, hey, we're morning here in Alaska. It's almost 5 o'clock. If you're over on the East Coast, that puts you at almost 9 o'clock. So you're getting up this morning. Did you get up and have to pee all night last night? Like 3 or 4 times. Maybe you had hunger through the course of the night. And after you eat, you're starting to think about what you're going to eat again. High blood pressure. If that's you, type me in the comment or type a 1. Just let me know how many does this hit? Because 93% of us in the US are metabolically unhealthy. If you're ignoring this, then this is probably not the place for you. But if your goal, like mine was to be the hero of my story, to be there for my family, then it meant I needed to make some changes. I needed to learn what was going on with insulin resistance, because insulin resistance is the root cause of so many of these conditions that when we go see the doctor, they're just medicating for that. They're just putting medication. And my wife, who has been doing this for a long time, is addressing it. Doubtful optimist. So you're one. So you recognize some of those. So I appreciate you putting it in there. And I want to just kind of dispel this, that when we talk about insulin, we're just talking about diabetes. Yes, it is a big part of it. So, what is diabetes? We have more than one type of diabetes, of course. But if you look over here, what is diabetes? It is the sugar builds up in your blood longer than normal. And insulin, the hormone, is trying to move that into your cells for energy. When there's too much of it and the cells are full, here's a kind of the example. So we think about our cells, right? And they're full. Insulin is the key, and it drags along all of this glucose to the cell. And right here, every cell has insulin receptors. So once that goes right into the cell, unlocks it. But when the cell is full with all that sugar for fat, so keep in mind, this is what it does. The body's been converting sugar into fat. All right, not fat into fat. It's sugar into fat for energy. Fat is that. So fat is that. That's a good reminder, right? So type 1 diabetes is somebody that the pancreas is no longer producing. It's an autoimmune disease. That's really what type 1 diabetes, they're going to need insulin. But diabetes, pre-diabetes in particular, insulin resistance is not that we're lacking insulin, it's that we have too much of it. And as Lindsay was talking about, that leads to the fat stores. That leads to the inflammation that we are dealing with in our health. So let me go back a second. No, where are we going? There we go. We jumped ahead a good bit. So this is what we're talking about. These are the things, right? Doubtful optimists that you're mentioning, that you're recognizing that these are the signs of insulin resistance that are not getting talked about. And the signs aren't always the very worst things, right? The body starts to become insulin resistant 10 to 15 years before the body really starts to scream, right? So we start to see these before we start to see these, typically. It's not always the case. When we start to learn to listen to our body, it changes so much of what's going on. All right. And we learn to listen to our bodies and we know how to respond. And that's one of the things that we don't hear enough about. So, and our doctors aren't explaining it. And I hope that this is helpful. I hope that this explanation is kind of giving you a little bit more guidance as to what is going on, because insulin resistance, normally our body is taking the insulin. You see the key and you see the glucose is being stored. And normally the body's going to use that for energy wherever it needs to be. But when we become insulin resistant because of a particular thing that's happened in our world, we become insulin resistant. And it changes everything, like I said, about our health, those chronic conditions. Did you know that when you become diabetic, you have an 80% chance for heart disease? And now it's 81% for an increased risk of Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes, if you will. We have kids as young as 6 now with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and 1 in 3 teenagers is now pre-diabetic. And that was hard to hear. I worked with teenagers for like 10 years, and the idea that I at youth group we would feed all that pizza and all those carbs, because that's what teenagers do, and it's easy to feel kind of invincible. How many of y'all feel like sometimes you're a little bit invincible? That was me. Type me in the comment if you feel like you are invincible. Nothing's going to hurt you. Type me. And if you don't feel the way, I totally get that too. When I was diagnosed with cancer, it was kind of that way. So what's the problem? Well, part of it is I'm going to ask 4 questions. And these are the questions. How are you eating? How are you exercising? What are your extras? And who are you encouraging? Because this journey with insulin resistance has so much to do with that. How many meals a day were you taught to eat? Was it 3 or 6? Everybody kind of got taught different things. I grew up hearing eat 3 meals a day. And then it became healthy snacks, right? How many of y'all have been there? You've heard that. At some point in time, we went to 6 small meals a day. We were taught that we would increase our metabolism, right? And that is kind of standard with the American Diabetes Association. Eat more through the day, and that's going to help, right? But we keep getting more obese. We are a sicker society than we were back in 1970, before 1963. And a big part of it was we took fat out of our food. We also took an important part of this, right? You were taught to eat 3 meals a day. Fiber was a huge thing that was taken out of our diet. Why is that important? Well, here's the thing. Fiber is the carbohydrate that helps to slow down the absorption of blood sugar. Think about an apple. I mean, this is like the most powerful thing that you can think about. And I want to put it this way. When God created the world, Jennifer, 3 and snacks, right? Okay, awesome. Yeah, 3 and healthy snacks, right? What's a healthy snack? And I'm going to show that a little bit. But here's the thing. Pectin is what is around that apple. That is the peel. That is the fiber. That is intended. It's about 3 grams in a typical apple of about 3 to 4 grams of fiber. And that little bit of fiber helps to control that blood sugar spike. But when we break that apple down and put it in a juice, guess what happens? The fiber is pulverized. It's gone. It doesn't do anything. So think about this. Type this in the comment. I've already given you the hint, right? When a diabetic or somebody's low in blood sugar and they go to the hospital, what do they give them to drink? Type that in the comment. If you know what they're going to take at the hospital, what they're going to give you to drink, type the word, what do they give us to drink in the hospital? All right. This modern diet dilemma, I want you to look at, see that orange line? That's your insulin levels. That's what your insulin has got to be higher to help bring down those blood sugar spikes. We got those blood sugar spikes through the course of the day. How many of y'all have gone through the crash? What is that like when you crash after you eat? What does that feel like? Is it tired? You kind of feel like a slug? If you feel like a slug, type slug. If you just, particularly in the middle of the workday, and it makes you feel guilty. You're like, I just ate. I should have energy. I should be able to do more, right? Because they told me that I needed to eat all the time. The problem that's happening is we continue to disrupt our pathways and our digestion, and it's leading to that brain fog because of this issue right here. So our modern day is very tired, right, Jennifer? Do you get frustrated? You get a hangover, right? You're going, oh my gosh. And I feel guilty. I feel guilty that it's like, oh, I'm getting paid and I want to go take a nap, right? And it's so frustrating and nobody's explaining why. Well, the reality of it is our blood sugar has spiked and now it's coming down. That blood sugar is coming down. And so we feel like we need to eat all day. So if this kind of describes your day, you get up in the morning, you go grab the oatmeal, right? That's that first one right here. You go grab the oatmeal, you go grab a milkshake coffee, all right, any of those things, and you get your day started, right? Got your energy, you're going. But then about mid-morning, you start to crash. You start to go, oh, I need some more energy. So you go grab a granola bar because, of course, that's healthy. That's a healthy snack, right? And then at lunchtime, you go run some errands and you go to Costco and you grab the hot dog meal and you get a Diet Pepsi or a Diet Coke because, of course, that's the healthy thing. And the whole time you're thinking, well, I'm drinking this because I'm eating the hot dog. Except the hot dog, particularly at Costco, is protein. I mean, it is good, solid protein. What you're really not realizing, it's the bun. It's that processed, purified, I don't want to say purified in the best way, but bleached flour that is becoming blood sugar because in the mouth, that's immediately what breads, rice, pastas, starches do. They become sugar right here. As soon as you eat it, it's not down here that it starts digestion, it's up here. So you spike your blood sugar again. So then you get back to the office and you're hoping maybe you'll find some stale donuts because a couple hours later after you ate, you're sitting there going, I need some more food. And then you go home and your partner calls you and says, hey, go, I need some food. We didn't plan for dinner tonight. Go grab something. So you go grab, you think I'll go to McDonald's. No, I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A or I'm going to go to Cane's and I'm going to get chicken because that's healthy, right? And you get home, you feed the family, you give yourself a pat on the back because according to what we were taught, we ate exactly the way we were supposed to. So you reward yourself with a bowl of ice cream. If that's you, type a 1 in the comment. If that was what you did, type a 1 in the comment, right? And, the thing is, I feel like so many times I don't have energy. I know those days. And when my kids were little, now they're grown, and I just wanted to sit. I wanted to veg. I was tired. And I didn't know why, and nobody explained it. But here's the thing. We have a food pyramid. We built our food system here on the idea of the old way of doing things, and we focused on carbs, right, Jennifer? Yeah, exactly. We focused on carbs. When you go to the restaurant, what do they bring you for free? I want y'all to think about it for a second. Where do you go to get free stuff? I mean, the restaurant is bringing free food. And if you go to the steakhouse, they're going to bring you a big basket of it. If you know what it is, type it in the comment, right? Most foods lack the mineral. Yes. Carlito, yes. Vitamins due to our over cultivation. Absolutely. And the fiber doesn't do what it used to do. That's exactly a huge part of it. Most foods do lack those minerals. That's one of the things Casey Means has brought that to the forefront, thankfully, right? And more. And she's not the only one. It's just her voice kind of got heard here in the last couple years, right? So we've got to address that. That's a huge thing. So bread, right? That's the free thing. When you go to the Mexican restaurant, what do they bring you for free there? What do they bring? Right, Jennifer? They bring us the bread. Exactly. We get all of that bread. And what is that? That's a carbohydrate. And as I said, my wife, the other part of Healthy Together and Feeling Great, Dr. G, it helped me to understand bread carbohydrates are breaking down into the mouth. That's where they start digestion because the salivary amylates in your mouth, the saliva, breaks that down. And there's two things that are happening. Breads, the simple carbohydrates, the chips. Yes, you guys are on it, right? That breaks down into sugar right then. Fibrous foods break down into a gel. So your vegetables and your berries become a gel. That gel coats the esophagus. That is what feeds your good gut microbiome, helps it to expand and go, because our old microbiome, the one that's been living this way off of this crap, is what's been hurting us. Leaky gut, GERD. I suffered with that still. The effects of acid reflux, because the microbiome is trying to feed itself and it's getting out, right? And it's eating at the walls of our stomach because we don't feed it. But now we've got a new food pyramid. It's been flipped over. I like to call it the food funnel because it doesn't look so much like a pyramid, that we sit there and we change the priority. Now, I don't expect the Mexican restaurants and steakhouse to change and stop giving us free food, because they know, if they don't know, we know, that disrupts our insulin pathways. That disrupts our body's production of GLP-1. Yogurt is a great option. Absolutely. Absolutely is a great option. All right. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about things that we can eat. All right. So what we want to do, and we want to start thinking about this, we want to start thinking about what fiber does. So when we realize what's going on, when we eat in a certain order, it helps to control our blood glucose levels. So we jump over here to the Ohio State, talks about eating veggies, proteins, and fats in that particular order, meal sequencing. We see the CDC addresses the same thing, that fiber is the carb that helps us to manage diabetes, helps us to manage insulin resistance. Now that's huge, right? Just understanding what we need to eat. Yogurt is something that does feed the good gut microbiome, but a good blend of soluble and insoluble fibers is key. Now, I actually mix mine, the fiber that I take, with my yogurt, which is pretty awesome. So we change the meal order, and that helps to reduce your blood sugar. All right, the responses, and improves your insulin sensitivity. Remember, we're going back to insulin resistance. Every single time we're talking about this issue that is affecting 93% of us in the US. So we eat those veggies first, the fibrous veggies, then proteins and fats next, and then we put carbs last through the end of the meal. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's different than probably anybody out there. You're going to listen to a lot of people. I am not demonizing carbohydrates. I like a good dessert. I'm a redneck from down south. I may be living in Alaska, but I love my fried chicken, my fried catfish, and I love my mama's banana pudding. I'm gonna open a can of whoop ass somebody gets between me and my mama's banana pudding. Okay. So what is a favorite carb of you guys? What is a favorite carb? Type in the comments. I mean, I love chips at the Mexican restaurant. You're not going to tell me I can't eat my chips. When I go to the Mexican restaurant, by golly, I'm going to eat my chips. You're not going to tell me, right, that I can't have my French fries at McDonald's. You're not going to tell me that. What are your favorite carbs? What is those favorite go-to? We're talking about breads, rice, pasta, and junk food, dessert. What is your favorite one? I love king cake. I didn't know what king cake was. How many of y'all have ever had king cake? My wife makes king cake. She's from New Orleans. Doubtful, optimist. Right, exactly. Carlito, yeah, back in the 70s, they changed from fats to sugars, thinking this would decrease heart disease and obesity. Right, and it didn't, right? Pasta's the number one. Love me some good pasta. Love me get some good pasta. I got to go to, I've been able to go to Rome twice to Alfredo's where they invented fettuccine alfredo. I will never eat fettuccine alfredo again if I'm not eating it. Um, right? You've had bread and butter pudding. Bread and butter pudding. So is that like are you talking about bread pudding? Potato chips, Rosie Ran, all right, good potato chips. Everybody loves a good potato chips, right? You can't eat just one, right? You can't, and when you pop, you just can't stop, right? Here's the thing, it's triggering in our body. Our body's craving that because, and we don't realize it. Even the salty things become sugar. That's what happens with carbs. I love most carbs. My doctor wants me to cut down on them, and we should. And here's the thing, when you change the order that you eat, that's the game changer, right? So we start looking up here at one. When we start with fiber, and we eat fiber first, we consume fiber first, then go to proteins and fats, we fill up till we're satiated. We fill up until we're full, and we leave carbs to the end of the meal where they belong. We clothe our food in fiber. That's a great image, right? So we want to start with fiber. Always, 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 always. Now I'm going to talk to you about some tools that can do that because of was it Carlito, you brought up early that our earth has been damaged, right? We have overcultivated. We have put all these chemicals on there. We've stripped our soil from the minerals. So we've got to be attentive to that. It's hard. And what I like to tell people ask, well, how much should I eat? So I want you to think about this, and I'm going to do fiber, fats, and proteins. I want you to think 30, 60, 90. Now, why is that important? So as a nutrition coach, and I always try to stay on top of this. This is not, I'm not your doctor. This is just nutrition science that I'm just trying to share the information. So 30 grams of fiber is what you want to think of as a goal. For women, it could be a little bit less, but about 25 to 30 grams of fiber is ideal. It doesn't matter your age. Once you're a teenager, that you need to be doing this. 60 grams of healthy fats. This is during the day, and a minimum of 90 grams of proteins. A minimum of 90 grams of proteins. Now, keep in mind what I just said, fiber, fats, and proteins. There's no essential carbohydrate. Now, are vegetables a carbohydrate? Yes. But in terms of breads, rice, pastas, corn, potatoes, starches, there's no essential carbohydrate. And you could potentially live without vegetables. But we know that those are different. And I really wish that somehow we could separate them, but their makeup is what they are. That in nature, everything that is sugar is clothed in fiber. Right. We exactly. And here's the thing, because what sugar does, it disrupts your body producing GLP-1. Now, I'm not going to go too far into this, but in terms of nutrition, how many of y'all have heard of GLP-1 thinking it is a medication? If that's you, type yes. If you have heard of GLP-1 and you've only heard that it is a medication, and maybe you've talked to your doctor about this, type 1. Just put a 1 in the comment. You've heard of GLP-1 and it's a medication. Just type a 1, because I'm about, if that's what you've heard, and some of y'all may have heard different. If you've heard the other part of this, type a 2. But if you've heard GLP-1, maybe you've heard of Ozempic or Wegovy, semaglutide. Yes, doubtful optimist. Okay, that's what. So here's the thing. GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. Your body makes GLP-1. This is a huge part. Jennifer, right? Okay, so your body makes it. If your doctor, if you've never heard that, type a 1. If you have never heard that your body makes GLP-1, type a 1. And I will tell you, when I heard that, I got ticked off. I was ticked off. But your body makes GLP-1. That whole thing that Carlito, you're on it. You're tracking right there with me, buddy. We're constantly hungry because insulin, which is an anabolic hormone, will disrupt the catabolic hormone that is GLP-1. And GLP-1 is what signals to the brain you're full. And when you eat fiber, fats, and proteins, guess what happens? Your body makes more GLP-1. Your body increases GLP-1. It signals to the brain, don't eat anymore. You're full, dude. You're full. So that's why I say I'm not going to demonize carbs, just leave them last, but fill and eat until you're full. That was a game changer for me. And I watched my wife do this. When she started this, and I didn't even know she had been diagnosed pre-diabetic. Now, what she had done is she had gotten on the phone and called a friend of hers who was a nurse and a diabetes educator who said, Doc, you need to go to the PDR.net because you need to learn some stuff. And my wife has been in dentistry for over 30 years. She's been sending people to the doctor about diabetes, pre-diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, because the mouth is the window to metabolic health. She can see that in periodontal disease. I know that's a whole nother thing. And you can watch her video on gums to guts. She's really working hard and does a great job. And but the point being that we change how we eat, and it will change everything. And it helps to bring the insulin levels down just by doing that, because now we feel full longer during the day. And when we eat, we don't feel tired. I don't feel like taking a nap anymore. So I'll tell you, we went, remember, I use the example for Costco. We had to go to Costco yesterday. So here's what we did. And this is the crazy part. And this is the legit. We went and got the hot dog meal, and we got a slice of pizza. We got a hot dog meal. We got a slice of pizza. Now we take with us a fiber matrix. All right. That is part of the Feel Great system. And it is in a little packet like this. And we have a bottle just like this one. And we mix this up. I didn't eat the bun on the hot dog. I got a Diet Coke. Right. So and we're doing a sugar detox. So keep in mind, we're trying to be very careful, and particularly added sugars. And I ate the top of the pizza. So we just ate that, and which is actually pretty good. If you dig the hot dog and you just the meat, and then the pepperoni and the cheese and all that. But we had fiber first. There was none. Isn't diabetes genetic? No, it is not, Carlito. Nobody in my here's the crazy part. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, nobody in my family had ever been diagnosed with diabetes. Now, is there some tendencies that way? Yes. But typically people become diabetic because the family eats that way. If the family is diabetic, we oftentimes actually would look at the learned behaviors. So like I said, I was never diabetic. Nobody in my family. I went and I talked. My mom is still alive. My dad's still alive. Family, I still got uncles and aunts, and nobody had ever been diagnosed with diabetes. And my family's been to the hospital a lot and to doctors. No, there is some tendencies, but a great deal about it is how we eat. And here's the thing. What we talked about, some favorite carbs. How about favorite cereals? Because this is funny. Favorite breakfast cereals, Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops. What are some of y'all's favorite breakfast cereals? I grew up in the 70s. So I grew up so I got hit with the Saturday morning cartoons, right? The Sugar Bomb cereals, right? We got all of that. My mom would only buy one cereal that was advertised, and it was Apple Jacks. And it was the brilliant marketing to take Fruit Loops and call them Apple Jacks, right? So I'm craving this. So I grew up in that first transition to, I like to say, the first part of shredded wheat. Oh, you got at least some good ones. Most cereals are full of sugar. Yeah, exactly. But in 1970, remember, when 1970, we had Kellogg's right before that said, eat your breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. Kellogg's and Post came up with this, and they're full of sugar. And even if they're not full of sugar, those carbohydrates, cornflakes, even if you have plain cornflakes, become sugar in the body. Cheerios says they're heart healthy. It becomes sugar in the body. So you imagine, I ate Apple Jacks. Yes, even oats, depending on how you do it. Now, there's some tricks with that. Oats and pasta, those certain ones, carbs, if you cook them and then freeze them, they become a resistant starch and they mimic in your body what happens when you have fiber. Now, so this is one part. I know we've gotten really good into this. Y'all have got some great things. So here's the other part: intermittent fasting. So this is where Lindsay Venn makes stress. All right, when we go to intermittent fasting, or I like time-based eating, however you want to do that. If you look at the chart up there, that orange line going down and the blue line is the separation between what happens and how insulin comes lower when we do intermittent fasting than when we do calorie restriction. So when we are intermittent fasting and time-based eating, and I'm going to give you some ones to think about, you are going to help your body become more insulin sensitive. And that's pretty crazy, right? Just by changing what we're doing. Now, how many of y'all have ever done intermittent fasting? If you've done it, type 1. If you've never done it, type a 2. If you've done intermittent fasting. So I want to talk just a little bit. There's a lot of different ways to do this. There's a lot of different ways to do this. We're not going into the desert for 40 days. Okay, that's not what we're doing. We're not Jonah, the city of Nineveh, and everybody's in sackcloth and ash and on their face and ground groveling. Right? What intermittent fasting does is we are eating less often, but we don't necessarily have to eat less. So I want to kind of put that kind of out of mind. All right. So to begin to think about, remember what we talked about already about food. We were taught to eat 3 meals a day, 6 meals a day, healthy snacks. We eat all the time. That's keeping our blood sugar high. We need to bring that blood sugar back down. It takes about 4 hours for blood sugar to come back down. I want you to think about that for a second. It takes about 4 hours. Most Muslims do. Yep. During Ramadan. Yes. And devout ones really do it well, right? And as a Christian minister, I've done it through the years. Now I do it all the time and combine it with my faith as well. And there's other ones, particularly during the time of Lent. Many do that as well in the Christian traditions. And Hindus, and there's a number of different faiths. So it is very typical to do that. So, but here's the thing I was saying. So it takes about 4 hours for blood sugar to come back down. But remember what we talked about. We're spiking insulin all the time. So we got to bring that down. How many hours should we fast every day? Jennifer, let's talk about that. That's a great question. Now, I'm going to give you 2 things to think about. Part of it as women, and my wife talks about this a lot. There's a great book called Fast Like a Girl by Mindy Pelz. There's also one of my favorite books is this one, The Complete Guide to Intermittent Fasting by Jason Fung, because it addresses both men and women in the book, that women should fast according to I see your biggest fan. Actually, there's a bigger fan out in the hall that kind of circulates on the second story of the house. It's a good wonder bucket. I like it. Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. No, good one. So part of it for women, particularly if you haven't hit menopause yet, is to fast with your cycle. So that's going to be an important thing. Women need to be aware of that. So there's a number of different ways to do fasting. I do typically, the most popular way is 16 and 8. And that's typically what I teach because the protocol we do really works with that. So what we do is we fast for a 16-hour window. And I'll explain the benefits. And you can see some of them. All right. So you have an idea. But I want to kind of break it down a little bit into kind of how it works in the day. So we start in the day by I stop eating. Let's start with the night before. So I stop eating around 8 o'clock at night and I don't eat anything. But remember, I ate until I was full. I ate fiber, fats, proteins through the day and the 2 meals that I had, or possibly 1 meal. And so I won't eat again until 8 a.m. the next day. Now that already put us in a 12-hour fast. You slept all night. You didn't eat anything, I hope. And so your body's fasted. Your blood sugars come back down and your insulin has dropped back down. It's kind of at peace. Your body's not stressed anymore. You're not having to produce anything. What it does start to happen is your liver gradually starts to go and grab onto the fat stores and turn them into the little bit of sugar that you need in your body through the process of gluconeogenesis. Your body will produce all the sugar it needs from those fat stores. So what we want to do is we get to that 12 hours. Ooh, let's extend that just a little bit. So let's kind of push that. So when we do that, our human growth hormones start to increase. Our bodies, as they're doing gluconeogenesis, begin to create ketones also from the fat stores. And our brain loves ketones. You want to wake up and get alert, let those ketones kick in right there. Let those ketones kick in. So we just kind of extend that fast because your body really loves ketones. We're not getting into that's a whole nother thing, but your body loves ketones. All right. And we're not going to do it forever. You're going to eat again. Right. So we're not starving. Remember, we're doing this intentionally. Ideally, 16 hours is the beginning of autophagy. And so autophagy is where your body begins to work through. So was working night shifts for many years, and I think that caused me some issues. Carlito, it probably did. It disrupted your circadian rhythm. That will do that as well. So probably, and typically when that happens, it increases cortisol. Again, one of those hormones that will cause stress, anxiety, and that leads to disruptions in those insulin levels and how your body digests food. So that's a huge part of this. As well. So yeah, great comments. Yeah, it will do that. But you can do insulin or you can do intermittent fasting along those lines. I like to recommend getting to 18 and 6. Now, when you're first starting out, it can be intimidating, right? This idea. So, and we've got some tools to help with that. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to make this so much easier, both the fasting and with the fiber. So what we want to do is if we get to that 18 and 6, that autophagy, your body starts to create stem cells. You start to regrow stem cells. Your body starts to take and search through the body, finding the dying cells, finding the free radicals, finding the germs. Your body cleans house in autophagy. All right. The longer we do that, the better. But for most of us, if we could get to 18 and 6 and then we eat lunch, right? Have lunch, then we keep fasting. We're going to fast again, no snacks, and then eat around 6 o'clock. So your fasting window is about 6 hours. Does that make sense, Jennifer? Does that help? Now, I alternate between, I don't know if my arrow is on the screen right. Yeah, there it is. I alternate between 16 and 8 and typically what they call the warrior diet. And have a huge meal at night. Yeah, that would be in this one. No. You drink things. Absolutely. When you fast, no, you get to drink things. Now, there's a couple of different things that I recommend as far as that goes. Actually, that's a great point, Carlito. But I will do talk about fasting. That I do it, I call it a 22 and 2. No one else has ever talked about this. I kind of invented it because it works for me, right? So about 4 o'clock, my wife and I will get in the kitchen and we'll eat during a 2-hour period. I graze for 2 hours. So I get to start with a good salad, get to have some good fiber. Maybe I'll have some yogurt to kind of break things, get the fiber started. We're cooking dinner. We're just kind of grazing. It's just a nice time. It's not intimidating. It's not feeling the pressure. So, and I find that my gut likes it. Now, as far as water goes, we definitely, we've been doing a lot of coaching. Dr. G and I are hosting a 14-day sugar detox. So when you're getting off sugar, when you're fasting, we want to increase water. That helps to feel satiated. Electrolytes, important to get when you're fasting. You want to get some electrolytes. You may even get a good sea salt or Himalayan salt, Redmond salt, and put that on your tongue to make sure you get enough. During fasting, chlorogenic acids. Now, don't be intimidated by that. We're talking about something that's a polyphenol. It's found in many different drinks. Coffee has a little bit, green tea has a little bit, I drink, if you've seen me here, I've been drinking on a yerba mate tea called Unimate. This is a concentrated version of yerba mate, and there's 375 times the chlorogenic acid in here that's in anything else that's on the market. And this tea crushes those hunger cravings, and this does not break a fast. And it has been the easiest thing to do. Plus, it helps with blood sugar levels during the day, and it is a vascular dilator. It's pretty amazing, all of the benefits that it has. So, how are you exercising? That's kind of the second question I ask. I don't take a lot of time here. I'm a nutrition coach, but when we're talking about insulin resistance, how are you exercising? Anything works movement wise and helps control blood sugar. Now, I realize I just kind of jumped ahead. Do we have some more questions regarding nutrition? Like I said, this is my specialty, but we're teaching about how to reverse insulin resistance. Does another thing the medical profession say salt is bad, but they don't mention the type of salt which is beneficial? Yes, there's a significant amount of that. And sodium is not all the same sodium. Just like there's over 200 names of sugar, there's about 10 different names of sodium. Sodium is not all sodium. There's numerous different types of sodium. And, there are salts that are good for you, that replenish the body, that have more minerals in them. And that's why I mentioned sea salts, Himalayan salts, Redmond salts. There's a number of different salts that will more naturally occurring salts that have not been iodized that your body needs. And so that's huge. That's huge for us to remember. Those are really the key electrolytes. So you want to have a good electrolyte that does have some salt in it. And you certainly want to do sugar-free ones as well. All right. So how are you exercising? Let me go ahead and jump in. If you want to talk still nutrition, I'm just going to give you the slide, and we talk about it. I've got some videos on here about metabolic workouts. What I want to sit here and say, that sedentary lifestyle is the thing we've got to avoid, right? So keep it simple. 10 to 20 minutes after eating. It can be as easy, like I said, as house chores, yard work, walk inside, chair exercises, weightlifting, low impact cardio. I do stationary bikes. I love walking. I love resistance bands. Yes, and you should, Jennifer, we ought to eat in the order, right? We've combined that meal order of fiber, proteins, fats, carbs last. We should have our meals, and we should be mindful of what we're eating and the order. So that's the big part that you don't have to eat a weird diet. Carlito, when we were talking about, they took fats out of foods. Oh, we have low fat. No. We eat good fats. And, right. Exactly. For centuries, salt has been currency. So when we work with us, we have a Facebook group as well. And this is one of the things we send out to all of our clients that we work with, is a meal planning of a good list of proteins, veggies, and things, and good healthy fats. And we try to help people with that. So I definitely, and I give some of those so you have an idea. But the big part of it is, and I have recipes during this fast. We have a 10-day eating, and we have it set up for 3 meals a day for people that are doing that, and they're just sugar detoxing. But you can adapt that. So, but yeah, when you break your fast, just eat until you're full. That's the huge part about it. So what are your extras? So this is kind of that next piece of this. What are your extras when you're on this journey? And so we talked about dietary, we talked a little bit about lifestyle issues, but we talked about what's lacking in our soil, right? Carlito, we talked about this. Now, for me and Dr. G, when we started this journey back in 2024, reversing insulin resistance, knowing what we know now, we started on a particular protocol. One of the extras that we get thrown at is pharmaceuticals. Right? This is a huge thing, right? That gets added to us because the pharmaceutical industry, our medical healthcare, is constantly right now treating every symptom with a medication. That's not helping us. In fact, the pharma loop, if you look at it, each one of these leads to a side effect. High cholesterol, you start on a statin, that starts to lead to prediabetes because it disrupts the mitochondria. Metformin, all right, impacts the heart, all right. I thought statins were supposed to help with that. Increased high blood pressure begins. You start to feel stressed with all this medication, right? The cholesterol level. So you go on lisinopril. Well, going back to the metformin, guess what that does? It strips the body of B12. You have to go on gabapentin. Now you're on at least 4 medications, if not more. So your stomach and your gut is hurting. So you get on omeprazole because you've got GERD and acid reflux. Well, now you're depressed because you got all these medications and everything, and those are disrupting your pathways. You talk about the stress. Now you have cardiac arrhythmia. You need metoprolol, and now you're full blown, and you need to get on Ozempic and Mounjaro according to the current pathophysiology of our medical establishment. That's what the protocol says, but it's not the one we have to live. So the solution as far as an extra goes is one that sits right along this in the PDR.net. Now, how many of y'all are familiar with the PDR.net? Put me on Abilify, and I've gained a lot of weight, Jennifer, right? It can do that. Is that for anxiety? And like I said, I'm not going to tell you, like I said, I'm not your doctor, so I can't tell you what to do. But one of the things I can tell you, as somebody that suffered from anxiety and depression still does, one of the biggest things is realizing that fiber, when you increase fiber by simply 10 grams, you lower your anxiety and depressions by 11%. When we're eating correctly, protein increases and helps with our mental state. And I can tell you, I was able to get off Remeron was the medication that I was on for my anxiety and depression. And at the time, I was under so much stress. When I started it, I lost so much weight. It was becoming difficult for me to function. So like you, it helped me to put weight on, but then it keeps going, right? So, and I wouldn't tell you to get off of it, but what we've learned is there's a solution. And so when Dr. G got on the phone, she called a nurse and a diabetes educator that she's known for years. And they said, look, go to the provider's digital reference. The PDR.net is where your doctor will go to look up prescriptions and what those side effects will be. So they went to the PDR.net. The PDR.net is basically their Bible. She does prescriptions all the time and does some pretty powerful stuff. You can imagine as a dentist, the amount of pain we have in our mouth that she has to, she puts people on. So she found that this very simple protocol is in the PDR.net. There's over 20 clinical studies. You can see some of the places that have studied this. In addition to that, it is HSA and FSA qualified. It's a nutraceutical, not a pharmaceutical. So it means it's standardized. So when you look at it, you'll see that it's measured. Your doctor's weaning you off it slowly. And so starting this journey, particularly with fiber and protein, is going to help. That will help a lot. I can tell you the fiber is going to be huge. This was a game changer for me. I will tell you, for me and my anxiety and depression, I now will start my day, because this does not break a fast either, that I will drink this now. I'll have a little Unimate in the morning, and then I will drink this, and it doesn't break my fast, to get fiber started in the morning. So it's patented, it can't be copied, and it's guaranteed. And so it comes to about $5 a day. You can see it right up there. So when fasting, all right, really simply, we drink the tea. This is an yerba mate concentrate. That's what this is. So if you're familiar with yerba mate, it's a tea. It's in South America. They call it the drink of the gods. So when we're drinking and doing the protocol, you can see in the top, you remember we showed you about what's happening with insulin. When you start on the protocol, we increase that fat burning, and we help to relieve that pressure of what's going on right there. So this helps to crush those food cravings. It's full of theobromine, which gives you naturally energy. All right. Now, it's got naturally occurring caffeine. This was handpicked. It goes through a purification process. All right. And then we just simply drink it. The great part about it is you don't have to brew anything. As far as a healthy drink that will help with blood pressure, that's what this does. That's exactly what this does. It crushes those cravings. And like I said, it is with the polyphenols and everything in it, the minerals, the vitamins, everything will help. And I don't take vitamins anymore. And the reason for that is the fiber. All right. Let's see if I can. The fiber actually comes with a multivitamin. It has got a B12 in it. So just as though metformin doesn't, what's the name of it? It is called, there's the balance and the unimate. So, I'll put a link on here in a minute. Actually, that is my QR code. Actually, either one of those will take you to the page to learn more about it. So it's balance and unimate. Now, I bring this to you, Jennifer, and so you're aware of it. I'm going to change down. I'm going to put this up here. So you'll see that if you were to order this, like if you go to Amazon or someplace and you order it, it has a totally different price. The company is committed to making life better. We and Dr. G and I do this because it's connected to coaching. So you're never on your own. And the company actually has been committed to this for over 30 years. If you're familiar with Rexall, is the one that originally developed this. And then it's separated into Unicity. And so they want you to have a coach. They want you to use it and to use it effectively. That's why there's a 90-day money-back guarantee on it. So it comes to about $5 a day. And if you're on any of the medications for GLP-1, you recognize that price is not unreasonable. And when you think about it, I actually save money because I don't eat all the time anymore. I don't eat the snacks. And the average U.S. American, we spend between $20 to $30 a day in snacks and that breakfast. So if we just go on the low end and say $20, we multiply that by 30 days, that's $600 a month. So what we did was we took that and we put it to ordering the product. I don't drink sodas anymore, which I drink a lot of. I don't drink milkshake coffees. If you go to Starbucks, that right there is almost $7. It will. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it does. Hey, Marla Howard, I'm glad you found you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Drinking normal tea will help suppress appetite, but not in the way that this one does. It does not have the amount of chlorogenic acid, but it will work. You don't have to be on the protocol to do it. What I know is this has been studied. This has gone through the research. It sets in the PDR.net. So yeah, Marla has been one of my clients. Marla, it's so good to see you. I'm glad that you found your way over to me over on YouTube. So this has been key. So if we look at it, I'm going to share with you the screen. The next one is it went away. No. All right, let me get this back on here. Let's take this. We're going to. Why did it go away? Let's see if I can add new. Let's see if I can bring this back. Let's see. Oh man. So I'm going to stop that one real quick. So the tea, I want to show you the study on this so you get a chance to see it, because it's not fair for me to talk about one and not bring this one over as well. So why is this important? Like I said, if you listen to me, that I did say that, when you're on, your coffee has chlorogenic acid in it, you can do this without. What I want you to have is the full information. And like I said, and if you want to work with Dr. G and I, as you get both Dr. G and I here at Healthy Together and Feeling Great, and I'm trying to get this to go away. I want to remove that off of there and swap these around. I don't know why this does this sometimes. There we go. So you'll see that the tea increases your body's GLP-1 more than anything else that you're going to find on the market. So there's where the big difference lies. So you're going to get the coffee, you're going to find chlorogenic acid, you're going to get it in berries, you're going to get there. But what this does as well, it's going to help with the blood pressure. It is a vascular dilator. I had high blood pressure. I was 145/93. I started on this protocol, adjusted everything. I drink this now every single day. In 4 months, I went down to 122 over 82. You get what I'm talking about here. With the lifestyle changes and with I've done, it has been a complete game changer for both me and Dr. G. So if you're interested in working with us, you will get us as coaches along with this. Your HSA and FSA will work with this, and there's no contraindications with medication. All right, there's even a caffeine-free version of the tea now. So you can get the tea that way in the Feel Great system. And so it's going to work right in your lifestyle. Drink one tea in the morning, like I'm doing right now. Have the fiber before your meals to make sure you get the fiber in your diet. And this is not just any fiber. This is a blend of 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. And these are plant fibers. It did it again. Oh my goodness. How humorous is this? Not really. Stop that sharing. Crazy. I don't know why it does this. Oh, I do know why it does. It's operator error. It does what it's supposed to do. This is operator error today. Let's see if it's going to switch it, do its thing, and we'll get it back up here. It's going to do it. All right. So let's talk then about this next part. So this is kind of one of those things that can be kind of more personal. And oh, there we go. So the daily protocol. So this is how it kind of fits into that daily life. So we're doing that intermittent fasting. Remember what I talked about, going through the night without eating and drinking. You've been fasting all night. You wake up in the morning. You're going to be doing, you're burning fat for fuel. Your body is getting healthy. You're in hormetic stress. You are doing exactly what your body needs to do. You're getting your body, you're moving to autophagy. You're improving your overall health. All right. And isn't nicotine supposed to? So there's a lot of studies coming out around about that. What nicotine does is also remains a carcinogenic, and there's always things that come out there. I wouldn't recommend it, and certainly, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm going to stay out of that one. It has benefits, but it has side effects. Let's put it that way. It has benefits, but it has side effects. There's a lot of things that have benefits that have side effects. So it's important to know what those are. Okay. So it is not something I recommend. It's not something that I feel like I want to play around, because those side effects have also been very well documented. So if you're interested in ordering the protocol, working with me and Dr. G, these are the links to order. But I really want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you're here and that you can hear from us and learn more. And we'll coach you on this in the videos that are here that we're doing every week. So the last question of the 4 that I always ask is this, and that remains, and did it again. Oh my goodness. If the mouth is, here's the thing I keep learning. If the mouse is in the wrong place, is what screws this up every time. So, yeah, yeah, there's a health benefit, but what did it do to your lungs? What did it do, right? So that's a good point. Very, very good point. When you smoke, yeah, you're skinny. Works that way, right? Same thing with a lot of other medications. So knowing that is key, and that's where we see some of those benefits, right? But then we get all of the side effects, and it's just like with nutrition. As a pastor for 30 years, and working with people, being in the hospital with people with heart disease, with lung disease, okay, that are waiting to have their leg amputated and digits amputated. That's something I just can't stand. And this gave me a chance to help people. So who are you encouraging? So if you notice, I have 4 E's. How are you eating? How are you exercising? What are your extras? And who are you encouraging? All right. You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And let that sink in for a second. As far as I'm concerned, my role is to help people, has been as a pastor. This is me and Dr. G. This has been the journey and transformation that happened for us. Right? Don't smoke it, chew it. LOL. Right? Yeah. And then you're going to be, you will be going to see Dr. G because you're going to have periodontal disease and your mouth microbiome is screwed up, which is then just screwing up the rest of the biome of your gut and your body. So just keep in mind where that's going to take you on this health journey. So this is where we were. This is what happened for us. And this has been this life transformation that has taken place and why we do what we do at Healthy Together and Feeling Great. This isn't about weight loss. It's about overall metabolic health, reversing insulin resistance. And if that's, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then that's what our ultimate goal is to help with that. All right. So the testimonials, we have multiple testimonials across the board. I've got videos of those as well that you can see about what happens when you start on this protocol and what it does for you and in your body and life. And you can see some of the folks up here and folks that I have worked with and have been blessed to coach alongside on this journey. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody being here today. It has been an incredible life. Do you have any more questions? Is there anything that I can answer? Y'all have just been a great group today. I have had a great time with all the people that have come in, the questions that have been asked, and the conversations about anything that we've talked about. I certainly don't want to jump away if maybe there's still something there that you're thinking about that you'd like to hear about, that I can answer questions on. As a nutrition coach, that's weird. Took my camera away. There we go. I want to be front and center. There we go. Hopefully that'll do it. There we go. Perfect. It is definitely all you need. It is all you need. And when you need help along the way, it's not always, unfortunately, so easy for everybody. It is what we coach, and we help people get to that point. The great part about the protocol, as we tell people, you don't have to be on this the rest of your life. There's nothing about it. We chose to be that way because the benefits are, I've got food freedom. Dr. G and I have freedom to eat what we want, live our lives the best way, and get the full benefits of that. All right. So thanks so much for being here. If you've got questions, don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm here for as a coach. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you like and subscribe, and we will get you back around on the flip side. Unless there's anything out there, I want to give just a few more minutes. What foods are good to break a fast, or can I eat anything? That's a great question, Jennifer. Thank you for bringing that up. So when I break a fast, like I said, I will tell you, for me, it's always, I start here. I start with the balance. This is number one. Like I said, this is my fiber. So I will break my fast here. I'll listen to my body. I will typically go to fats and proteins. So avocados is also a great one. Thank you, Carlito. Thank you for being here. Some of the great things to do, the best protein that I personally think exists is salmon. That is one of the best protein with both omega-3s and protein. It's the best. Fish are just one of the best things that you can do. So we want to make sure you get the good fats. Carlito mentioned yogurt is a great one right there. We want to typically you're always going to want to start with savory. You don't want to start with sweet. So keep fruits is not how you break a fast. Potato chips is not how you break a fast. We want to start there. So for me, when I started this was really all about the fiber, getting that started. And like I said, I think avocados are one of the best ones to go. Breakfast, organic, eggs, and avocado. Yep, I think that's a great choice. Good cheese eggs are also a great one. But you really want to start there. Is what you want to focus on that savory, fats and fibers. Just everything that we talked about right there. I said I don't eat breakfast. That typically I eat breakfast now. I used to eat breakfast all the time. Today I eat breakfast maybe 3 or 4 times a year, because I know what it does down in my gut. It's very disruptive for me. Even if I do all of everything that I talk about, my gut does not like it. So I have to, again, part of it is learning to listen. So knowing what damaged my body. Suffering from acid reflux, doctors put me on omeprazole, never got into what was going on with my gut. I asked questions, never got any help. They said, you have acid reflux. And I was on it for 20 years. When you're on omeprazole for more than a few weeks, it begins to increase your chances of diabetes. You're on it more than 6 months, it increases your chances of diabetes over 50%. So learn to really listen to what your body is telling you on that, but you want to do definitely fats, proteins, and start with fiber. All right. Anything else? Perfect. Well, make sure that you subscribe, Jennifer, Carlito. I hope you guys do. I hope you'll be back. I am here most every day. Yeah, around the same time. I usually get on about 4:30 with a different speaker. I have different webinars, so I try to bring good science. So if you miss the first part of this, you go back and look at fats and everything related to Lindsay Venn, who works with Insulin IQ. It's great. I have a lot of her webinars, but also have Dr. Kenny that's on here, and I've had a number of videos that are up here. So make sure you go check those out as well, and reach out to me. Make sure you subscribe so you know I've got a couple of videos coming out. Awesome, very good. And if y'all have a channel, let me know. I know you're on here, so you've got a channel, but if you're making content, let me know. I want to go back and make sure that I check in with you as well. That is important to me. I want to support. And let me know too. If you can always message me, I've got a whole community board started. And let me know what you need more information on. I am happy to do that as well. All right. I'm going to sign off. As I say every day, go get the day, make it golden. What I mean by that is go live the golden rule, go be excellent to one another. And I hope that this inspired you to be excellent to yourself. Y'all have a great one, and we will see you back around on the flip side.